Hello. Who are you? Doesn't matter. Welcome. You're safe with me. I'll be right here. Let me tell you about Senua.
Indeed, we will be talking about Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice, the full first game. I will be finding all Lorestones, solving every puzzle, and learning about the Norse myths from our trusty friend Druth. But where do we start? Where do we begin? Well, this is Senua, a Celtic warrior from the archipelago of Orkney. She is on an epic quest for love, revenge, loss, and finally, acceptance. We'll be going for the story in the same order it is portrayed in the game, which is not chronological. If you're merely looking for a quick summary, you can check out the video linked in the top right corner in the card. Otherwise, let's listen to the voices.
Why is she doing this? They're watching. Why didn't she tell you coming? She's doing this for him. She wants to rescue him. He's already dead. I can feel you coming.
As you can tell, the themes in Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice can be quite dark and psychological. If it's not your cup of tea, beware. Viewer discretion is advised. Now, I will be playing the entire game and the PC version too. However, I will mention something about the VR version at the very end. And so, we are following Senua right here on an epic quest towards Helheim. Hopefully, to end up answering the question, Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice, does it hold up? And additionally, we're getting ready for Senua's Saga, Hellblade II. How will the story continue? But first, let's see where this journey leads. Now this is the first Lorestone. You can focus your vision on it, and Druth, one of our voices, will tell us all about Norse myths. It also doubles up as a progress marker for each chapter. Let's hear what he has to say.
Do not forget my stories, Senua, because your darkness comes from hell, and your fate lies there. They say the burning of a corpse will take you straight to Hela's gate. But gods and the living will follow this path. You must leave the Isles of Orkney across the eastern sea and find a road that leads north and down through...
So, we're going to hell. A darkness following us, being ever present. As we're wading through the water, we keep hearing voices. We keep seeing things. And as we continue, we can see it in the distance.
Can you see it?
The land of mist and fog.
He's in there.
The old fool was right.
He's in there. You see it?
What was it he said? The river of knives across which lies the halls of hell. The place they call Helheim.
Indeed. Senua carries a skull with her. Her guide, perhaps? No.
Where are you? He's there, you know it.
There's no doubt about
He's
it.
lost.
The source of the darkness is in Helheim, and the goddess Hela holds his soul there.
The skull is not her guide. I mean, it kind of is. But actually, she's on a quest to save her lover's soul from Helheim, which is pretty much the Norse version of hell. This is where the dead rest, and souls are guarded by Hela, the goddess of death. Oh, look at this, Druth! How about you introduce yourself?
Call me Druth. Liar.
He's lost.
An old fool. Druth is my truth.
It's good to see you again. You kept your vow.
Guide you in this life and the next. I will tell you my stories of hell, if I may walk with you.
Tell me your stories again, old friend. I'm listening.
The rune.
And now onto some gameplay. This is a rune gate, sealed by this M-looking rune. We have to focus on it, and then we have to find this particular rune inside of the environment somewhere.
I can see one.
In this case, a shadow on the wall a few steps back looks exactly like it. Focusing on that has the seal broken, and thus we can enter the gate. That is the first big gameplay element. Rune gates will get more complicated and have several other puzzle mechanics introduced later down the line, but that is one of the basic gameplay elements. Overall, none of the puzzles are going to be incredibly hard to master. They do make you feel like you're progressing through challenges, and most of the mechanics flow perfectly into each other. We'll see many throughout the
In
game.
all of the 9 worlds, only Hela can resurrect the dead. To Hela, your Dillion was sacrificed.
Yes, the sad truth is, as we will soon learn, Dillion was sacrificed, and we must enter Helheim to confront Hela. But first, we must enter the gate.
Is that the face of Hela herself?
And as the music swells, we are introduced to the darkness.
You took him from me. I beg you, let him go. I'll give you what you want. I won't resist anymore. Just give him back.
You're killing us. You're going to die. Get dying. Darkness is coming. Surrounding you.
And the first combat section begins. There is no introduction, there is no HUD. I actually appreciate this choice immensely. Combat is quite easy to understand and about medium hard to master. Left mouse button does a light attack, right mouse button a heavy attack. You can also do different combos, and holding down each button instead of just tapping them, those will also get you different attacks. Control makes you block, and if you perfectly time it, you can block a light attack from an enemy and you can riposte. Using space in a direction will have you move from side to side. Using that together with shift, the run button, has you roll too. In essence, those are the basic controls for fighting. And fighting one enemy, it's quite easy. If you're surrounded though, you have to be wicked careful. However, the voices will shout out.
Behind you.
This will then give you a split second to dodge an attack from behind. This is actually quite useful and will save me multiple times and a few amounts of damage along the way. I'll be talking a little bit more about the combat as we get deeper into the game. But overall right now, I can tell you this. In the beginning, I really felt like combat makes you feel like a total badass. I love this. It is not as difficult as something like Dark Souls by any means. However, especially with more enemy types and different patterns and multiple enemies, the combat gets quite more challenging. You can see this last battle, you're supposed to lose because I can't even attack the enemies, and then Senua dies, overtaken by the rot and the darkness.
A vision of what's to come. Poor Senua. The darkness does not bargain. It does not reason. It is rot. And now it has taken hold. It will spread towards her head, the seat of the soul, until there is nothing left of her. All of her suffering will have been for nothing. It's just a matter of time.
And it is then revealed, the dark rot will grow each time you fail. If the rot reaches Senua's head, her quest is over. And all progress will be lost. Now,
The hardest battles are fought in the mind.
I better not die then.
The goddess Hela lies behind the gate to Helheim. To open the gate, you must first face the gods that guard it. The god of fire, Surt, and the god of illusion, Valravan. Spill their blood to open the gate to Helheim and enter the land of the dead.
When I get the choice to fight two gods, I decided to fight Surt first. Canonically, this is actually the second choice, but it doesn't really matter that much. After a quick combat section, the same rune gate stands before I can continue. I find this Y-like symbol with one of the corpses that is hung up and the N-like symbol right here. And so we can pass through the gate. Another small combat section commences. The enemy types are not varied as of now, and multiple enemies at once surrounding you can become quite challenging. But so far, it's gone pretty good. Surt, the god of fire, well, his trials are quite hot, meaning we have to touch the stone right here and the closed gates will burn away. Whether it's just a vision, hallucinations, or real fire, it does seem to burn the gate away.
Cannot overcome suffering. If you
refuse to look at it.
We touch the second stone and there's a bit more fire and a longer way until we reach the gate. This is quite a similar thing a couple of times. In between, visions of Druth tell us about some of the myths and legends. About his own backstory and the Northman's myths. He was taken as a slave by the Northmen but escaped through fire. The Lorestones in this section speak of the end of the world, Ragnarok. After opening another rune gate, we touch the third stone and have quite a long distance to make up this time. We even have to fight enemies as the inferno is raging all around us. This last section here has us match 3 runes for this rune gate. I take my sweet time to find all the runes because some of them are incredibly well hidden, while others are quite easy to find. I specifically have a hard time with this last one. I know that it has to be somewhere on the tower, and I eventually find it right here, but man, you have to be so accurate with this one. And thus the last stone is touched and we emerge to burn to death? A vision. Let's see.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. This darkness takes everything. Everyone.
Senua, are you sure you want to do this? We can fight this together, side by side. We always do.
This is my battle. I have to face it alone, away from here.
Where will you go?
I don't know.
For how long?
I don't know.
I believe in you. You know that. Just promise me that you will come back to me. I want you to say it. I want you to say it.
I will come back to you. I promise.
Senua had to go into the wilds, but she promised Dillion to come back to him. But that's the past. Now, we have to fight Surt. The first boss battle against Surt has some much needed variation when it comes to fighting the same enemies. We also get another mechanic introduced, and that is focus. While in battle, you can focus and time slows down, and your hits seem to do a bit more damage. Overall, this fight was pretty simple in my opinion, and finally Surt, ruler of Muspelheim and god of fire, is slain. Thus the first seal is broken. And in a vision again, we see Druth's final moment, his doubts, and finally his vow.
And in the end, we all fall. Even the gods have their time. Yet we still go on. Why?
I made a promise, and I will go to hell to keep
I
it.
die free, knowing you will carry my stories with you. I have fulfilled my quest.
Yes, you have.
When the darkness comes, I vow to guide you in this life and the next to fulfill yours.
Then I will see you in hell.
So far, Druth has guided us well, and he will continue to guide us as he vowed. Now, we trek back, and when we enter the room with a door to Helheim, a new enemy is introduced. Basically, a more buff and harder hitting version of the basic enemy, and the same stronger enemy can now also have a shield. The variant with a shield is quite annoying to fight, especially with multiple around. And so, we move on to the realm of Valravan, usually a supernatural raven of Danish folklore, but in this game, the god of illusions.
Ancestor of the seers and master of ravens. He hunts his prey with his powers of illusion and feasts on their remains. Follow the path to Valravan and defeat him in battle to earn his mark. The gate to Helheim cannot be opened without
In this
it.
section, the Lorestones speak of the creation story of the Norse, starting with Ymir and the birth of Odin, Allfather. However, then I realized the following. Focus on this Lorestone closely. You see the dots mark the section's end. Do you see it? I missed one of the Lorestones in Surt's domain. I will spare you the 20 minutes I took to run back and search the previous stage, but it was actually quite fortuitous that I was able to get back, because not all sections are back traceable. And it's very important to get all Lorestones, because if you do, a special scene unlocks in the end, which is of course something I definitely want to show you. Sometimes when it comes to the Lorestones, the locations are a bit off the path. Or rather, it's hard to say which path continues the story and which gets you to the next Lorestone. There will be one example which is actually so horrible that I soft-locked myself out of one Lorestone entirely, but we'll talk about it when we get there. For now, Valravan's domain. The mechanics and puzzles here are actually really awesome. As this is the domain of the God of Illusion, that is also what we'll be fighting. We go across this bridge, and this gate right here reveals the hidden path.
We all want to see behind the veil, don't we? But once we do, we mostly just close our eyes again and pretend what we saw was never really there.
Walking through the gate and seeing or being in a new reality is just an awesome mechanic, and one that is beautifully implemented in this entire section. The lessons here are worthwhile for Senua too, because
Once you gaze into the relentless darkness, all that lurks within it can see you too.
and a short combat section commences again. Overall, the combat section have been totally fine so far. However, having multiple enemies surround you, as I've previously said, it can make combat quite challenging. Although sometimes I can feel the dynamic difficulty taking some effect. The focus time gets longer and the enemies make different decisions. I actually really like this. Next, we have to match the rune and align it with the ravens that are strung up in this level. Once again, we use the gate to reveal a hidden path, scale up the side, and we get an angle to align the ravens properly. This then allows us to open the door. The reason the narrator talks about the forest watching us is because it is. I absolutely adore the creepy visuals and eyes everywhere. It gets you a very strange feeling. I focus on the door, and once again, we need to align the ravens. This time, we have to go through multiple gates multiple times. As you can imagine, the puzzles get more complicated as we continue, of course. We get rid of a wall here, open the door, and make the stairs appear, and there you go. We can line up the symbol easily. However, now I've become a bit paranoid because I want to make sure I don't miss any Lorestone again. And good thing I did, because in this one, you actually need to get rid of the wall, open the door, then make the wall reappear again to cross over it. And we can continue.
We picture fear, and we think of a shadow in the woods, a creature in the night. If only it were that simple.
To another arena and combat section. This guy with a shield gives me such a hard time. Having multiple enemies surround me too. Like I said, I'm fighting for my life right here, because I really don't want to die and lose my progress. But luckily, I am able to do it in the end, even though this was the first fight that had me sweating quite a bit.
The Northmen say you must sacrifice in order to receive.
Lorestones here once again speak of the Norse myths. This time, how Odin hung himself from the world tree, Yggdrasil, for 9 nights. And how sacrifice is a prerequisite to receiving. By the way, I'm trying to highlight the most important Lorestones in my opinion. The ones that directly tie into the story in some way. Of course, all of them do to some degree, but certain ones have more meaning of the story revealed, while others are just sort of setting up stories. Truth really likes some self-talk, that's all I will say. The last section here before the boss battle with the Raven is a lot of the same stuff, but with a fun twist. Basically, there are too many ravens in this section, so now we have to see that those are illusions too. Quite a clever way to climax of this illusion gate mechanic. To summarize the section, we lower a bridge or two, make a wall disappear, open a door, make the wall reappear so we can cross over the wall again, and this makes a few ravens disappear. We do this again on the other side of the level, and finally we can easily break the seal. And now we can enter into Valravan's nest. As we climb up the ladders and scale the roots and branches that go up to Valravan's nest. But remember, what is this god's domain?
It's coming back for me.
Focus!
But it is not done, because with the mirror that Druth gave her, she finally focuses. And the boss battle with Valravan begins. Similar to the boss battle against Surt, It's actually nice to get a cool new enemy with different attack patterns. However, Valravan will spawn some goons along the way too. I have a much harder time with this battle compared to the Cert fight. I feel like a few times where I almost fall, but focusing brings me to this. And there it is, the second god slain and the gate to Helheim opened.
With every battle, the darkness grows stronger. Every victory bringing her closer to defeat. Unfair, isn't it?
Along the way, we learn of Senua's mother, Galena, and how she similarly had sight beyond a normal person. Sometimes we might see her in the world somewhere, but now we can open the gate to Helheim and finally see what is behind, and it is complete darkness. In this vision, a new voice joins the choir, and we hear of Dillion's death, the brutal truth.
There is no one here but me.
Not you.
Did you think that I would let you go? That you lost me back in the wilds? I will never let you go. You can't get rid of me. I am your shadow. And I will be watching when you draw your last dying gasp.
I'm not ready to die.
You will be when you see what they did to your dear beloved. They can break you, but not your promise. Even death won't keep you apart. Through his darkness you will find him. In your sword still beats a heart. You fought for love unspoilt by your darkness within. You fought for your dreams. Now there's no way to win. In the head of his corpse lies the seat of his soul. So you must carry his vessel to bring him back home.
And now we find ourselves on the bridge to Helheim. As I fight demons on this bridge, I want to talk a little bit about the acting in the game. We have just witnessed a pretty harrowing scene. Now, the actress portraying Senua is Melina Jurgens. She's using a mocap suit, so her facial and body movements are all translated into the game. The passionate performance she gives is of such unfathomable depth, especially considering the rawness and strength of emotion she's portraying. I am floored. And if you consider that she was not even supposed to portray Senua, but actually was just a stand-in the beginning. She was the videographer and video editor for Ninja Studios, and she was not an actress before this in any way. This is her first role. All of this is quite incredible to me. We'll be revisiting some of the cinematography in a bit, but now that we reach the other side of the bridge, we can enter into the tower, and a storm rages, as we get smacked right in the face by a giant. And thus a new enemy type is introduced and a combat once again begins. I fight my way through the enemies and we continue. Once again, we have to find 3 runes to open this rune gate. There is a casual introduction of this distorted reality type of view, where you can basically reassemble this staircase if you look at it from the right point of view. This mechanic will be used sparingly going forward as well. Now I find all the runes and we continue to the second part of the bridge. The storm is still raging on, until all of a sudden...
The gate is opening.
Hela is coming.
It's coming.
That song again.
Is it?
It's Hela.
Yes, the source of the darkness. It's coming. This is your moment.
And now it is time for Senua to face her darkness. However...
I'm sorry. I can't watch this.
What are you doing? You're showing weakness. You're not a warrior. You're a disgrace. The gods will punish you for this. Pick up the sword. Pick it up. Fight the darkness. Fight it. Get up. Get up. Get up and fight.
And even though she fights the darkness, it ends up with her sword broken. And as much as she doesn't want to admit it, Senua now too is...
Broken and lost. Just like your sword.
Why go on when you give everything and face that which torments you, only to find that it is worse than you could have imagined?
But she hears Dillion. He's out there somewhere, still guiding her. And thus broken and beaten, we still continue towards Dillion. We learn that Senua's father, Zinbel, sheltered her significantly. And not quite in a good way.
That was her world. Like this one. Barren. And lonely.
That was of course before she met Dillion. But we will get to that in a bit. The stories here intertwine, as the Lorestones speak of the story of Sigmund and King Siggeir. A story detailing the making of a legendary hero and a legendary sword. And the narrator tells us about how Senua met Dillion.
The lone figure of a boy. Sword play under the shade of a tree. She remembers the first time she saw him. To her young eyes, he moved as if dancing. And the world danced with him. The gloom lifted. And for the first time in years, she felt a ray of hope.
And as we approach this mighty tree at the shore, a vision once again strikes, but this time a nice one. This was the first time she met Dillion. I will let this cutscene play out entirely because I think that this is a quite important piece of the story.
You can't even fight. It's just deception.
How does he so effortlessly court the world and bliss? If only she could do the same. See the world through eyes anew. And dance with it, just like he does.
What's your name?
Senua.
I haven't seen you before.
I don't leave home much.
Oh, General's daughter.
I have to go.
Wait. Who taught you to fight like that?
No one.
No one?
Well, I watched you, and
You learnt all of that from watching me? You should become a warrior, you know.
me?
I'm Dillion. I'm here for the warrior trials. Just come and watch. And bring your sword.
You can't put it into words. That moment when you look into the eyes of the one who is supposed to reassure you, make you feel safe. It only takes an instant. Fear swallows you before you have a chance to make sense of it. And darkness becomes a part of who you are.
You killed him.
But her world changed the day the Northmen took him from her. Senua knows that there's no going back to how things were. That there's nothing to go back to at all.
Stay still, stay quiet, hide, don't tell her.
Their gods can see into your mind. They will use this power to destroy
They
you.
won't stop me. I can still feel him.
Whatever's left of him, they will never let him go.
I'm not gonna let him rot here.
You're the one rotting here.
Leave me alone.
You will die here.
No.
And all your suffering will have been for nothing.
On this journey so far, Senua has battled with gods, strange demons, and giants. Yet it seems there's a far greater battle in her future. The Lorestones finish the story of Sigmund, a great hero that has a sword made by Odin himself.
And here is the end of Sigmund's story. He was a fierce and great warrior who fought many battles. But one day, an old man came onto the battlefield Although shadowed by a hood, Sigmund saw that he only had one eye. The man raised his spear, and Sigmund struck at it with his sword, but the sword shattered into pieces. Sigmund then knew that this was Odin, and thus that victory could not be his. He bowed his head and accepted his end. Dying, he tells his wife that she is with child, and that her son will one day make a great weapon out of the fragments of his sword. The sword named Gram.
Why is this important? What does Sigmund have to do with Senua's story? Well, we just lost a sword, didn't we? And look what is inside the Tree of Death.
Take it. A sword. Take it. Dillion left it for you. Take it. Take it. Take it.
Imagine a sword that can slay gods. Its name is Gram. It was forged by the god of all Northmen, Odin, and gifted to Sigmund, a great warrior.
I need this sword. It's important. Can you help me?
The sword appears whole, but it is an illusion. It shattered into shards long ago. It is said a great warrior can reforge Gram by answering the trials of Odin, one for each shard. The roots of the Tree of Death will take you to new lands where you will face the trials.
Go to the shards. Go to the shards.
And thus we take on Odin's trials to reforge the legendary sword Gram. These trials will test if we have a true warrior's heart, and it will have Senua face many of her darkest fears. The first trial has us go to a burial mound.
So strange that we go to such lengths to bury death. Something so very ordinary, inevitable. It's as if we conspire to hide death, because we have no answer for it.
And so we finally enter the burial mound, and it has a quite spooky atmosphere. I make sure to light the torches along the way, because in the darkness, I do not know what lurks there. The atmosphere here, together with the voices that Senua hears, is immaculate sound design. Just listen to it for a few seconds, it is brilliantly made.
Was that voices? Is that his voice or the voice of the dead? Not Dillion. Dillion's calling to you. Can you hear him? Where is he? He sounds like he's getting further away.
And now we continue to go round and round. I keep lighting flames, making sure I don't miss any Lorestones over here. In this section, they tell a story of the woman warrior Hervor. The main point of the story is basically summarized in the last line that Druth delivers.
And so, Senua, the misdeeds of a father have cursed his daughter.
Those are quite apt words to choose. I continue forward, round and round we go, until we finally go backwards. And we can find a new way, and finally enter into a new area. And in the end, to the outside.
Dillion wants me to face my fears.
And just like Druth said, we'll see the curse that Senua's father brought upon her.
I'm leaving. I've decided. I think it will be good for me.
It's the darkness. It's speaking through
No,
you.
Dad, it's me. I think I can beat it. In my own way.
I can see the darkness in your eyes, child.
I met a boy.
Boy.
The chief himself.
No.
He said he could help me.
It's a trick.
He said I could be normal.
Normal?
Yes.
No boy is going to save you. No one can. When they see the rot growing inside you,
No!
they will turn their back on you. The gods can only fix you through my hand. You're going nowhere.
No.
You will not defy the gods.
Come, child, take my hand. Come, Senua.
I am leaving!
You cannot escape the darkness. Your curse will make everyone suffer. You will have blood on your hands!
So, the next trial is going to be the Plague or Swamp Trial. We learn that Senua has been blamed for the plagues in the past, because she has sight beyond vision.
Don't worry, not everyone can. It was a warm spring day when she went to the river with Dillian and the others. But the water, she could taste the rot. No one else could. She knew something was wrong, something sinister.
The gameplay in this section is nothing new to speak of. We have gates that reveal illusions like in Valravan's domain, and then a rune gate again, which I immediately activate, and this soft locks you out of the Lorestone because it changes the level layout. I feel like this is quite an unfortunate design decision. This has never happened before, so I thought activating the runes would be fine. I reload the last save, but it brings me back right after activating the runes. So I'm forced, if I want to finish the game 100%, to restart the Trials of Odin chapter, get that particular lore stone, and then continue the main story after that. Yeah, so this is exactly what I do, but it is a bit of a frustrating moment. But fair enough. Going back to the story, the lesson here is quite apt again.
Sometimes we allow our own fear to haunt us to our grave.
We then have to find the runes in this maze structure, being chased by what I would interpret as the villagers or others blaming her, and maybe some of her own guilt too. The only thing she wants to run towards is Dillian though, the only one who understands, and in the end she barely escapes.
Senua! What happened?
They're blaming me for the plague. They say that I'm cursed. What if they're right?
How would they know such a thing? Are they gods? None of us are. They're just people. Good people, but they're scared. They're afraid of what they can't see. Like children scared of the dark. They make up stories to fill the void. That doesn't make them true.
What if my father was right?
You have to step out of this darkness. Let them see who you really are, like I have. You're not a monster.
And so the second trial is done, and we continue to the third one, the Tower Trial. Senua finds herself near a tower next to a bridge to Helheim. The floating phase allows us to change time. We can move from the present to the past. So changing things in the past will affect things in the present. This is a beautiful way of taking a similar mechanic, the illusion one, but changing it so that the entire level changes instead of just one illusion. Additionally, I do love the metaphor of the past being beautiful, with the sun shining and things not being broken back when Dillian was still alive, and the present being a stormy place, the tower broken and ruined, just like Senua's present is. Overall, the gameplay and puzzles here all revolve around the faces and finding runes, both in the present and the past. I personally really like this. It gives a bit more depth to the finding runes mechanic. However, a much more important part here are the Lorestones. I think this might be the quintessential story that Druth tells Senua. The stories told by Druth via the Lorestones, they are more and more grounded. It starts with the creation of the world, Odin hanging himself, and now the story of Baldur, the first god to die. In essence, the story goes as follows. Baldur was invincible and could not be killed by anything, as his mother asked all things in creation to not harm her child. But Loki, the god of trickery, had something else in mind. Baldur's mother confessed to him that she did not ask the mistletoe. It was too young, she thought.
Oh dear.
And finally, Baldur is killed by a mistletoe, a trick played by Loki, and thus he was the first god to die. The last Lorestone offers the most important insight of them all.
A reminder, perhaps, that if even gods must accept death, and so must we.
I will just let this stand here. Just think about it a little bit more. And so we cross the last plank right here, and there he is, Dillion, and another vision.
Senua, your father cannot understand your darkness. He cannot see through your eyes. No one can. My own father was born blind. Doesn't have the faintest idea of what the night looks like. The word dark to him means as little as the word light. So if someone is afraid of the dark, should we fix them by taking away their sight? Would you give up the beautiful world that you, and only you, can see just to be rid of your nightmares? Or is this the price you pay for the gift you have? A gift that makes you so special in my eyes. Just another part of the person I love.
I left for the wilds to protect you from my darkness. Because I love you. But it made it worse. I'm so sorry.
A sad reminder of her Dillion. But here I don't want to talk about the story right now, but rather the cutscene itself. So far previously we had Senua act alone in cutscenes. Yeah, Druth was there sometimes too. What I just find strange is the choice to make all the other actors real people instead of mocapping them like Senua is. To be fair, this is most likely due to budgetary constraints, let's be honest. I will say, they solved this in quite an interesting way. But it does break my immersion just a little bit. Don't get me wrong, I don't necessarily mind it, and I don't think it's horrible by any means, it's just a strange choice. Although I will say, given the point of the game, it kind of fits, doesn't it? It makes you think. And now off to the last trial, the blindness trial. This one is pretty significant.
Where am I? I can't see.
In it, Dillion is guiding Senua through the darkness. In terms of gameplay, you simply follow the path as you can see just a little bit around you. Dillion continues to help Senua, and she keeps talking to him as she's going through the darkness. As she enters into a house,
Dillion, there's something in here.
a writhing flesh monster just in our peripheral vision is stalking the shadows. And as we continue, more of them stalk us. The sounds they make are quite unsettling, and right here I narrowly avoid this one. We end up traversing through water with corpses hanging above us and flesh monsters all around. But as long as we move towards Dillion, we will be safe. And as we get close to the light, another important cutscene.
She could spend hours, days even, trapped within herself, in the dark.
You see me?
Yes.
Your eyes were open, but you were gone.
And when it finally let her go, she could be anywhere, with no memory of how she got there.
When it comes for me, I have no power over it.
But here, for the first time, someone was there to help.
But I heard your voice. You brought me back.
You found your own way back. All you needed was a little help. A little hope.
It's pretty clear that even with her affliction, Dillion was there to help her through it. And now that we have conquered all of Odin's challenges, it is time to get Gram, the sword that can slay gods.
The sword is tainted by the gods of darkness. Leave it.
No. He left it here. He wants me to take it.
You will pay a price for this.
But years later, with Zinbel's parting words still haunting her, the darkness came back with a vengeance. A plague.
Dillion?
Everyone suffered.
My father was not supposed to die like this.
the suffering you've caused.
This is your fault. You brought this plague to us! You have blood on your hands!
They're coming for you now. They're coming. They're coming to get you.
Dillion blamed her for his father's death. How could this be? With all this blame coming towards us, and with her new sword, Senua now fights her way through the sea of corpses. An endless mass and landscape of tortured souls. This is what Senua thinks she did. She thinks these are innocent souls that she is responsible for vanquishing. All because of the darkness that's inside of her. And the darkness, the deep voice is reminding her of this.
And look at what you have done to them. All because you were a coward, because you ran from your curse instead of facing it.
She really thinks that all the bad in her life is her own doing. Gameplay-wise, we fight a lot of enemies here, sometimes a lot of enemies all at once, and at this point in this section, I will admit the combat was getting a bit on my nerves. There are about 4 or 5 different combat sections in this small section, each of them longer than the one before. I kind of understand what they were going for. The gameplay seems to be a meta-commentary reflecting the story in and of itself, so the endless barrage of her own mind attacking her, and the fact that it is getting harder and harder. We were fighting the hardest battles here. After we finally beat all of the enemies, a way reveals itself to us and we find Senua's mother.
I can't fight it anymore. Not on my own. Where are you, Mother? I want to be with you.
That night, she gave up on her world to follow in the footsteps of her mother. To go to a place where the darkness couldn't reach her.
Senua. Look at me.
Do you hear them? They're calling for me.
We've lost so many. And I've lost my father. I can't lose you.
You said it. I have blood on my hands.
I didn't say that. You've done nothing wrong.
Zimbel was right. Everyone will suffer.
Zimbel is a fake. He is a hateful, bitter liar. He's poison. And his words still haunt you. Who do you trust? Him? Or me? Do you still believe in me, Senua? In us? Come back to me. Please. Don't let this darkness come between us.
Senua did not end her life that night, and we are back to realize
The hardest battles are fought in the mind. He gave her the sword with which to fight in more ways than one. And she gave him her word, never to surrender. All she needed was a little help. A little hope.
And with this hope, we will continue to Helheim. We go back and can finally enter the gate, and as we open the second door, we meet the guardian of Helheim, Garm.
What's in there?
A great beast guards Helheim. Garm is its name, and it knows you are here, Senua. It can smell your stink. What are you afraid of, Senua? How would you save Dillion if you are too much of a coward to step into the shadow?
They can't stop me.
Then do it.
Here we have to run from light to light as the beast that guards Hell is stalking us in the shadows. The one very interesting part here is the vision Senua gets of her mother as we continue running to the torch.
No, it's a trick.
Mother, do you hear that?
Don't fall for it.
It's me, Senua. So loud.
It's not her.
So full of hate.
It's a trap.
I just want to help them. Tell me what to do.
Your father wants them to go away, and he only hurts me to silence them.
But he's gone now.
But they always come back. He says I will die if I go with them. They say that I'm already dead.
No,
They want me with them.
Stop!
That's why they crawl through the walls.
Don't listen
Do you
to them.
see them? Do you see their faces? He's coming. Senua, help me! Help! Get me out of here! Don't go!
Where has she gone? She's disappeared again.
She shouldn't be here. She escaped the darkness. She took her own life to escape it.
And once again, we have to find 3 runes to open the gate. There are some combat sections around, and to find the first room, you have to light the torches and see the shadow on the floor. After this, we wade through water and actually dive under it. This extinguishes the torch, but luckily there are some pockets of light near us. And after finding all of the runes, we can finally open the rune gate behind which Senua's mother waits, or does she? And now Senua has to run.
The beast is coming. Stupid.
Run away from the beast! For nothing!
What have you done?
No! No!
You've lost it. It's over.
You've lost him. Get to the light!
We now have to retrieve Dillian's head, which fell all the way down. The atmosphere in the caves is quite creepy, as constant whispers of strange voices surround us. These are not the voices that we're used to, by the way. We pass through another rune gate and have to go through a waterfall, extinguishing our torch once again. But not to worry, we can easily light it again. In terms of gameplay, there is nothing particularly new in this section. Pretty much, you can't enter the darkness for too long, your torch is extinguished when walking beneath waterfalls, and the rune gate has to be opened. In terms of Lorestones, nothing too interesting gets revealed either, but of course I collect all of them. And as we pass through this narrow passage, hands stretching out, trying to get us, Senua is crawling through a tight space. Water around her. The torch will not be lit for long, and as it goes out, Dillian calls for her, but at the bottom, her biggest foe awaits her. Gorm. Interestingly enough, having the voice of her father.
You're not taking it from me!
I warn you, Senua. I can smell your...
No!
You betrayed your god.
I am leaving with him!
You turned your back on me. That is why Dillian will rot in hell.
Fight for Dillian!
And another boss battle ensues. The beast is quite tough as only major strikes deal damage to it. Additionally, it can blind you with one of its attacks, which turns the whole battlefield into blackness and some red lights. These are some awesome visuals for sure. The beast sometimes also retreats into the shadows, and you have to listen where it is coming from. Overall, the boss fight is fine. I have a couple of moments where I struggle, but I'm able to knock the beast down and finally defeat it.
People think of evil as an unnatural, invisible force, and so invoke the gods for protection. But evil can come from the hand behind the gods. A familiar hand, cold and cruel.
And after defeating the beast, it seems her father's voice, one of the strongest voices in her choir, bows down to her, and we can continue and find the bridge to Hela.
I'm not here to fight my past. I'm here for Dillian.
In this last section, the Lorestones speak of the story of Ragnarok. In terms of gameplay, we simply need to complete the bridge by looking at it from the correct angles. Along the way, there are a few fights, some puzzle we've pretty much seen before, and thus we can finish the bridge. Along the bridge, a plethora of enemies are trying to stop us. I almost fall a couple of times, but luckily I do not, and thus we can enter into Hela's domain.
We'll all die someday.
I don't want to die.
And when everyone's gone, even the gods will die.
The voices are becoming nervous. They do not want to die.
Please stop, please stop. Please stop. Please stop. You'll never come back if you go there.
There is nothing to go back to.
We only have each other now. Don't abandon me.
Everyone suffers. They were right about me.
Listen to me, not them. They were afraid. Like children scared of the dark.
So was I.
They made up monsters to fill the void. That doesn't make them real.
They made them real.
No.
Follow your soul and let go of the Senua of old. For there lies your weakness, and the darkness will find it.
And in the final stretch,
It's not like the old stories, is it? The noble warrior facing evil in search of victory and honor. Clear dividing lines. No. Oh, this place is not quite like that. It's as if it knows that true torment lies within. Memories you cannot defeat, cannot escape. This is her hell.
the final portal before Hell reveals the secret ending for finding all the Lorestones. Let's hear the final revelation that Druth gives us.
Gods betray us. Unmasked mask.
The man I was before Druth. Was a true coward, Senua. I was well traveled. I spoke both their tongue and ours. So they took me as a slave. I thought I could help to broker peace. Or at least stay their hands from slaughter. But under torture, I did no such thing. I led them to the treasures and slaves they sought. But I wasn't the only one. Another came to the Northmen willingly, offering a bargain, a man in black from your lands. And he was offered safe passage for his treason. In the end, Senua, it isn't the gods that cause us so much suffering, but those closest to us.
And with this reveal, we step into the last memory, her mother being burned. She didn't take her own life. She was burned by the orders of her father.
Faces fear and suffering.
You could see it. You killed her.
And inside of Hell, Senua now has to fight demons of her past. 3 stages, all with varying enemies. The first one is quite easy, but as we progress to the second,
Then I have a sword here that can kill a god.
she knows where she has to go, and Senua will not give up. In this second section, we have to fight all of the bosses again, as the enemies turn into each boss. For me personally, this was quite the frustrating gameplay section. Once again, it makes sense that this is the hardest battle because as we have learned,
The hardest battles are fought in the mind.
But still, even then, as long as we do not give up, we can continue and finally face Hela. But then the voices start changing their tune. Even Senua herself. More and more enemies surround Senua. We can fight, but can we win? The voices tell us it's time to give up, and so that's what we must do. The abridged version of this ending cutscene goes as follows. Hela picks up the sword that can kill gods, and Senua, still stubborn, cannot accept that.
And I can't save doing it.
And then Hela picks up Senua and strikes her down. A final scene with Dillion reveals the truth.
I learned the hard way to not be afraid of death, Senua. Because a life without loss is one without love. You turn your back on death, and all you can see is the shadow that it casts. The longer you hide from it, the longer the shadow grows until all you can see is darkness. When our time comes, we must look death in the eye and embrace it as a friend. Only then can we let go of our fear. And emerge from our darkness.
And so we're back on the bridge. Hela is now taking Dillion's head and letting go of it, only to reveal it was Senua all along. She was not killed by Hela. What was killed was her doubt, stubbornness, and the darkness. It was killed by herself. And so she can finally let go and say,
Goodbye, my love.
And there we go. That was Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice. An absolutely powerful story about love, loss, and finally, acceptance of that loss. I believe the quintessential quote was spoken by Druth.
A reminder, perhaps, that if even gods must accept death, then so must we.
Additionally, I love the lessons in this game. In terms of the reveal at the end, Druth telling her that another person from Senua's land got safe passage, in my mind it has to be her father. And thus, he was responsible for Dillion's death, as he was responsible for Senua's darkness and her mother's death too. Maybe in the next game, we can face the demon that is her father. We'll see. Overall though, how does Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice hold up? I think it is an amazing game with a great, passionate story. I think the gameplay is fine for what it is. As the game progressed, I grew kind of tired of the combat, which honestly it does serve as a great meta commentary on Senua getting tired of fighting too. The puzzles were only rarely frustrating and always made sense to me. Overall, I finished the game in about 6 hours with all Lorestones found. As a proper rating, I would give the game an 8 out of 10. I don't think I can go much higher, even though the story is fantastic. In terms of gameplay, there are just some major improvements to be made. I'm hoping for those in a sequel, of course. But before we end this, I want to talk about the VR version of the game. This is what I promised in the beginning. I only played the VR version for about half an hour, so it's not a full review by any means. It is to be noted though that when you buy the game, the VR version comes with it too, so unlike other games, you don't have to buy it separately, so that's a huge plus. Anyway, the atmosphere in the VR version is absolutely insane. The voices all around you, being able to look 360 degrees, it is nuts. I can tell you that I would not be able to play some sections in VR. They would be too creepy. One thing I found very odd though is that some pre-rendered cutscenes, the screen would switch to a movie theater kind of mode, which looks like this, and that is very strange to me and completely takes me out of the immersion. Overall, the camera angles in VR are totally fine. Even though I first thought that the third-person view would be kind of annoying, it's actually totally fine. Combat in VR is just bad, I'll say it. You can probably remap the controls, but man, I'm using the Quest 2 and the left shoulder button runs, and then X and Y make you attack, but you will have a hard time moving because the left stick also is on the same controller. It's a lot of stuff all at once. Now, interesting, this one cutscene right here is actually fully rendered in VR, and that was freaking cool. as I moved around, Senua's eyes actually followed the camera too. I don't think you can see it very clearly in the video, but inside of VR, it was amazing. That was incredibly immersive. If you're gonna play the VR version, definitely not recommended as a first playthrough. And here we are. Visually and especially in terms of audio design, this game is absolutely superb. It's well worth experiencing for yourself, or if you watch this video just as a refresher for Senua Saga Hellblade 2, I really hope you enjoyed. And YouTube thinks this is the video that you'll enjoy the most next. Hope to see you there. So, yeah.